Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. We're going to go ahead and attempt to walk through the process of printing a photograph, an image, through Qimage Ultimate. There's been a bit of a confusion about how to proceed to do this and use color management either through the driver if you choose to do so, or through the utility itself, in this case Qimage Ultimate. So what we have here is my favorite printer, the Pro-100 series. I have many others, as you can see, and we're going to print again on my favorite, easiest to print paper, Photo Paper Pro Luster. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and tell it that we want the driver to control color. So we're going to just simply click right here and choose that. As you can see, you have several choices. Off means that you can completely disregard color management either on the driver itself or the application as a whole. And why would you want to do that? Well, you do that whenever you want to print a color patch chart for creating a paper profile. And this is the perfect application to do that with, because it will not interfere either way. Neither will the driver nor this application will impart anything at all to the rendering of that set of color patches as it prints it. And that will then ensure that once it is scanned, you will have a very, very good and very accurate profile. So let's go ahead and choose to let the driver manage color. And all of a sudden you see right here, printer driver color matching settings have been auto-applied. And basically all that means is that the application has made sure that the driver that is controlling this particular printer, whether it is a Canon printer or an EPSON printer, has been set to the proper color management mode. In other words, either yes, allowing it to control color, the driver that is, or preventing the driver from controlling color and then allowing this application to do that. Now, in the case of printing on an EPSON or a Canon printer, when you are using EPSON and Canon media, really there's no advantage as to why you should be doing either one, because by simply letting the driver control color, the driver itself is going to apply color management with this particular profile for Photo Paper Pro Luster. It's going to do that automatically for you anyway. So another thing that people may have been doing wrong is when they are browsing for a profile, they may actually choose the monitor profile. And of course, that is not a paper profile. It is not intended for printing photos. It is intended for you to be able to view your images correctly on your particular monitor. So we're not going to ever use or choose the monitor profile. Now, let's go through this again. So you are here, you're going to load your image, you click on it, and boom, it is loaded. And notice, yeah, it doesn't quite fit on that 13 by 19 because, well, the image is not a 13 by 19 ratio. So one way to crop it automatically so that it fits is to click down here on the crop and auto rotate button. Now when we click on it, it fits it perfectly. So anyway, let's proceed with the printing settings. We're not going to get into the layout because there are many videos on the Qimage Ultimate site that kind of walk you through all of that, and also the YouTube channel for both Qimage Ultimate and Qimage One. So let's just stick with this basic image right here. Basic layout, nothing fancy. All right. We're going to print it letting the driver control color. Now, how do we know that the proper settings have been chosen? I have Photo Paper Pro Luster, 13 by 19, and let the driver manage color. And I got a nice little green check mark right there. So let's go ahead and click on that and see if indeed that's the case. Yep, I didn't even touch the driver, by the way. So here we have Photo Paper Pro Luster chosen. Yes, indeed. And we're going to check here to make sure that we got the proper setting. Yes, we do. And it's on automatic. So that means it's going to choose the correct matching profile. And that is awesome. And also, we can change that to perceptual if we want to, or relative colorimetric. which is what I like to print with. And that is it. Now you can print this. And of course, assuming, of course, that your monitor is calibrated to the point where it's producing a linearly neutral result. In other words, a display of the standard image so that it matches the linearly neutral result that your printer will provide you. If it's correctly set up. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the printer by itself will produce a nice linearly neutral print. Not too light, not too dark. If the print is consistently too dark, especially the so-called evaluation image, that simply means your monitor is too bright. And you need to adjust that within the content of your calibration software and not manually by pressing those adjustment buttons in the front panel. That will not give you a linear result. So now let's go ahead and decide, well, I want to get fancy. And I know Joe has a specific profile that he created for ProLuster for the Pro-1000. By the way, we are using Precisioncolors Signature Edition inks. So we're going to go ahead and choose that. And wait a minute, I just got to look at how many profiles Joe had, and it's just going to take me forever to find it. So here's what you do. They have incorporated a very easy way to do that now. So we're going to go over here to the tools again and click on that. And right here, there's a little magnifying glass. It says suggest list profiles in order of relevance to the current printer media combination. So click on that. And right here, we have the proper Canon OEM profile listed. And let's see, where's mine? Here it is right here. I didn't have to search very far. So we're going to go ahead and click on that one. And now I'm going to be printing with my profile. And I'm going to be doing it manually. Oh boy, let's see what happens. Remember I told you about letting the driver control color? Wait a minute. Did we choose that? No, we did not. But it automatically switched it. And we got that warning that the driver has been switched to no color management. What does that mean? Basically, that means that when I go into the tabs right here, it should be set to none. Matching, none. Look at that. It automatically set it. I didn't do anything. I had nothing to do with that change. Qimage by itself did it. Now let's go ahead and imagine that we want to create something with a border all around. So since this is a 13-inch white paper, and this is the only layout little hint I'm going to give you, I'm going to create a so-called cell. In other words, a margin that will give me a 1/2-inch border on the left, 1/2-inch border on the right on the short side. So we're going to enter 12 inches because that's 1 inch shorter than 13. That will give me a 1/2-inch, 1/2-inch. We're going to click on OK. Boom. And there it is. We got a 1/2-inch on the right. So when I print this, I can then go ahead and trim off the trailing edge and leading edge and get myself a nice centered 1/2-inch border print that will be perfectly matched to my monitor. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. There are some other little features that they have introduced. Let me quickly walk you through that. Now, you can turn that automatic control of the driver on or off right here. Why would you want to do that, right? Leave it on all the time. The 16-bit simulated printing, only a Mac can print real 16-bit, by the way. But this will remove or reduce any kind of posterization type of banding, which is not a horizontal or vertical banding, but it looks like something you printed with a paint by colors type layout. So what about the so-called rendering intents? Well, that depends on your image. So perceptual scales to accommodate out-of-gamut colors. So regardless of how few or how many out-of-gamut colors, it will then push everything in equally. And so some colors that were already in gamut will be shifted. Now, this may not matter much on a seascape or a landscape per se, but if you're printing portraits of little babies, you don't want to shift those skin colors. So you want to choose relative colorimetric as a default. That's what I normally use. Okay? Now, if you already know that your images require a certain type of rendering intent, as relative colorimetric, for example, is the most accurate way to print and reproduce in gamut colors. The colors are out of gamut, maybe a few or none, then really you don't need to use perceptual. You can stay with this. And anything that's outside the gamut will be shifted inside, but The magic is that none of the in-gamut colors will ever be shifted. So skin colors, colors of dresses, of bridesmaids will never shift. Okay, and that's very important. Now, if you want Qimage to automatically decide what rendering intent it should apply, you can then click here. Auto perceptual or relative colorimetric. It will then analyze your image and decide what rendering intent would be the best. But the problem with this, as wonderful as this is, the problem with this is that it doesn't know what is a skin tone. It doesn't know what is a logo color if you're doing advertisement photography. And it will possibly choose the wrong intent and cause a color shift to occur on colors that you do not want to shift at all. So we always leave it on relative colorimetric for my own use. And basically that is it. I can go ahead and hit print and I am done. I can just walk away, sit down, have a drink, come back a few minutes later, and I will have a near. Remember, there is no such thing as perfection, but it will be a very, very, very close match to the monitor display of that particular image. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more like this in the near future. I know you guys wanted to see a little bit more tutorial-based type videos, so I'm going to go ahead and put some of these together for you. Thank you so much again. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. As always, happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.